It's August 10th, 2010, 8/10/2010. Got that down. It's the only time it's going to be that until it's several years away. We're going to start off with item number one. We want to welcome everyone here. We should be joined by Mr. Reyes and Mr. Wesson. We do have a matter from our city attorney that's a closed session matter. Mr. Clerk, we're going to take item one, which is closed session. I want to ask you all in the audience, if you're not with the city attorney's office, to stretch your legs. This is an executive session. Only, Sergeant, you clear the room for item one. It will be moments.
Oh, we're going to be up here?
Mr. Muckrey, if you could stay. Neil. We're going to start with number 5, okay?
For the record, on item number 1, we just have to read publicly what our action was,
Right.
details.
On item number 1, are you ready, Mr. Clerk?
I am ready.
On item number 1, we recommended approval of the city attorney's recommendation. I'd like to call item number 5 out of order. 5 out of order, please.
All right. Item number 5, Department of Aging report relative to approval for release of request for proposals for Older Americans Act Senior and Caregiver Services.
Good morning, council members. The Department of Aging is requesting routine approval to release the RFP process to provide various Older American Act Senior and Caregiver Services as outlined in the approved 2009-2012 area plan. This RFPs will identify the services providers for the fiscal year beginning July 1st of
That's
2011.
18 million and 15 million?
It's about 18 million.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's a routine process that we do. Do you have any questions for us?
No questions. You satisfied with the program? I mean, in a sense, it's not covering as much as we want, but we're doing the best that we can.
Absolutely.
And
We've done the
then
best
people, there's no things like the city controller's got to look at and not like. You're watching it like a hawk?
Absolutely.
Okay, I recommend approval.
Great, thank you.
Item number 6. For those who came back in the room, we had an executive session to discuss matters. On item number 1, we're starting the agenda at item number 5 right now, working our way through it. Item number 6.
Item number 6, LA Kids Steering Committee report relative to authorization for term extensions for 4 Proposition A project agreements, Cabrillo Coastal Park, Plaza de la Raza, Runyon Canyon Park Visitor Center, and Sepulveda Dam Recreation Area, Franklin Fields, administered by the Department of Recreation and Parks.
Bernice Hollins, Office of the CAO. The LA for Kids Steering Committee is recommending extensions for 4 Proposition A projects that are administered by the Department of Recreation and Parks. In the case of Runyon Canyon, there is an anticipated impact to the general fund once the project comes online. The impact, we have not yet determined a magnitude of cost. However, those costs would be addressed in a city, as part of the city budget process in an upcoming year.
Mr. Drucker, could he speak to this too with his expertise as city engineer? And all the council office effective been briefed and notified?
That's correct, and we also have Susan Hunley from Rec and Parks if you have additional questions, but the council offices have been briefed. We meet with them every other month, so they're aware of it, and the city engineer is in support of the extensions.
Right. There has been a change in what the councilman of the 4th District wants for Runyon Canyon. You know about that change? And the parking lot? You know, the parking lot I don't believe can be achieved within the cost. So, but this gives us more time to look at it, so we'll meet out there and we'll look at it. I know Mr. Muckery is working to get a ranger assigned to the area to be kind of like the permanent face. So, what would you think, John? In September, you'll have somebody assigned by? And then at that time, maybe with that input of that ranger, as well as your expertise from both your disciplines, will help move it along. And everything else is okay. Recommend approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Huntley. Okay, thank you. Let's recommend approval, all right, Mr. Clerk?
Very good.
Okay. All righty.
Where'd you like to go next?
Number 7. Want me to hold that for Mr. Reyes? Oh, we're okay with number 7. Just read it into the record, sir.
Okay. LA Kids Steering Committee report relative to authorization for a 6-month extension of the Proposition K grant agreement number C-111825 with Plaza de la Raza from June 30th, 2010 to December 31st, 2010.
We recommend approval. The project's actually now essentially complete. The extension is just for the closeout period to process all the paperwork.
Good. Thank you. We're joined by Mr. Reyes, the great councilman of the 1st District, where Plaza de la Raza is, and your staff has informed us this is An item that you support, so we recommend approval. 7,
Okay.
it's the grant extension for 6 months.
Oh, great.
Okay with that, Ed?
That's great.
Recommend approval. Mr. Clerk, since we're joined by Mr. Reyes, can we possibly get him, you want to just take a minute? You can be briefed by staff on the items we took, and then we'll get them all together. How about number 8? Let's
Thank
try
you.
8. Thank you, Mr. Drucker.
Item number 8, Recreation and Parks report relative to authorization for acceptance of a $50,000 grant from the National Recreation and Park Association to promote summer and before/after-school food service programs.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sophia Pena Cortez, Superintendent
For
for the
council people, only because there's a difference.
Council members.
It is to your commission.
Sophia Pena Cortez, Superintendent for the Department of Recreation and Parks. The department was awarded $50,000 from the National Recreation and Parks Association and the Walmart Foundation to increase the number of lunches and snacks served by 20% over the course of 2 years. Currently, we serve over 5,000 lunches daily at over 100 facilities. So our goal is to serve between 6,500 to 7,000 summer lunches daily by the end of the program. We are providing training for staff for outreach, purchasing marketing materials, banners, developing an educational newsletter for parents and children, and have a monitor to make site visitations for the implementation of this program. This is a national program funded by Walmart in their campaign for fighting hunger together. We also have a conference scheduled this Thursday at Lincoln Heights Recreation Center at 11:30 in conjunction with the Department of Recreation and Parks. Council Member Ed Reyes of the 1st District, the National Parks and Recreation Association, and the Walmart Foundation to provide the supporting agency certificates of appreciation and to officially kick off our program.
Very good. Mr. Reyes, any comments?
One, thank you, and I think just for the record, when we talk about nutritional food programs, can you just give us an example of, if you have any insight as to what's being served and just what's on the menu, in other words, just so the folks can know that what their kids are eating and.
Right. There's a variety of lunches, the basic peanut butter and jelly, but all of the lunches include juice, a snack, a fruit, a vegetable, and occasionally we get some pizza, but overall it's a healthy, nutritional, balanced meal for the kids. The kids ages 1 through 18, everyone's welcome from the community. There's no need for participation or a proof of income or anything like that, so it's just open to the general public.
And this is not the first time, right? This has been
No,
going on.
actually, as a youth, about 40 years ago, I also participated in the program,
Right.
and my favorite was the grape juice because I didn't get that at home, so it was always a treat.
Fantastic. And the number, what's the number that is being allotted for people to benefit from this, for the lunch program?
Well, just depending on the number of participants that we have in the program, like I said, we have over 100 facilities, and daily we serve over 5,000 lunches a day.
Or 5,000. Thank you. And I think it's critical. I want to applaud the department, Mr. Muckery, and the city, because these are also areas that are suffering high levels of diabetes, obesity, because of the lack of nutritious meals. And right now we're working on addressing this notion of food deserts. And I think this is one of those opportunities the youngsters actually get to eat something different, that's
Right.
nutritious, something that is of a fruit or a vegetable, which is something they typically wouldn't have access to because it's just not being served in those areas.
Correct. And we also provide, before we serve the lunches, a nutritional activity so that they can understand the value of, those healthy foods for them.
Great. Again, thank you for the hard work. Given the number of years it's been done, has anyone, nonprofits, philanthropic groups, or anyone done any studies as to how this impacts certain populations, given that there's a very few who have that opportunity to get access to nutritional meals? Has anyone done any kind of studies regarding how this program works or affects the communities?
Not that I'm aware of. However, we do have nonprofits that are adjacent to our recreation centers that also participate and bring their kids to our programs.
One of the challenges we have is how do you prove what people think is actually happening? And these are the few instances where you can prove that certain number of families and kids are actually eating something different, and to make our case as to access to nutrition. This is one of those moments that we can actually talk to a family and say, if it wasn't for this program, I wouldn't have access to fresh fruit or something of nutrition, because all I have is fast foods and the dated produce that's in the local grocery store that's priced 3 or 4 times what a person usually pays.
We
So
can certainly look into that and possibly do just a survey of the parents at the end of the program to find out if that in fact is the case.
that would go a long way.
Okay.
Because if we have a survey, we can actually point to a number of families that have stated the only time I get fresh fruit is through the city program. And then they can state the reasons why. And it adds more, how can I say, the substance to the assertion as opposed to the theory.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So we'll talk to you later. One thought just to think at, sometimes a little message about nutrition at the rec center maybe would be something to think about. Just a reminder of, good food, good health, good fruit. There's somebody doing a program called Fixing in the Kitchen, Improving Our Nutrition or something. It's got a good rap to it. But we'll talk and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This last item here on the agenda was item number 9, and this I want to ask Mr. Mercury just to speak to it. I know you're, as our general manager, you're also involved in national organizations. Just briefly now, the President has issued a proclamation to promote the Great Outdoors initiative to conserve outdoor space and reconnect people to the lands. I know you've been a champion of that, John. Could you just give us a brief so Mr. Reyes, Mr. Wesson, our committee in the fall and throughout the next year is going to promote our national lands as well as our local lands as far as an experience for people, please.
Correct. In April of this year, President Obama announced his Great Outdoors campaign. For the first time since President Theodore Roosevelt, the President has earmarked or began to look at our national parks and open space, wherever it is, as a national resource. And there's a great growth of protectionism and conservationism. Since Teddy Roosevelt, we've seen a mass migration of the population from the urban areas, from the rural areas into the urban areas. We expect over 80% of the population now to be residing in our urban centers. You can see that in Los Angeles. So there's a great need right now to take our youth and our families and reconnect them not only to their local open space, but to national parks and other open space. So the President has announced a twofold effort of conservation and education. This year he's doing listening sessions of what Nancy Sutley, former of the mayor's office, came to Los Angeles, and she's one of the real driving forces behind this, as well as Carolyn Jackson of the EPA and, of course, Salazar from the Department of the Interior. Secretary Salazar, former senator, former Governor Salazar. I know Ken Salazar very well. I got to know him in Washington, D.C. He's one of the most fantastic individuals I think I've ever met, really focused. This year's listening sessions, and we were honored to have Carolyn Jackson and Ken Salazar and Nancy Sutley, all from the administration out here, engaging our communities in what they want to see. Next year is going to be when the tire meets the road. And what we can expect to see is our city taking our youth in an educational conservation program and actually taking a percentage of these kids and putting into paid internship jobs in our national park system. And these are one of the things I've been working through the National Parks Association. I did attend 400 delegates to the April 8th announcement. And it looks like they're really interested in Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles can be not only the test bed, I think we can be the national leader in this. We definitely have the kids. We started programs in the past, the Wonderful Outdoor World. Each one of you as council members attended some of those outdoors. Each one of you take kids, I know, fishing. And this is the linear connection. We need to re-educate our kids. I just heard you talk about food and nutrition. That's a critical component of this. But what we've lost now is that real day-to-day outdoor activities. And just getting out there. So we are committed to working with this administration. I think it's a step in the right direction. The first time in 105 years the president has announced such a widespread program. And I think there's more to come out of this. I just want to caveat that is with all the budget concerns at the national level, we are fighting dearly to get some funding directly to Los Angeles to put on these programs.
But also the thought, just to raise our awareness of the outdoors, is so important. I will ask you if we could schedule, Mr. Clerk, a time. I'd love to give you a report to council about this, just so we have it in our mindset. Mr. Reyes, Mr. Weston, any comments?
One of the challenges in these processes is how we speak with one voice as a city. We're going to so many federal departments, and I guess my question is, has there been any dialogue as to how we're going to prioritize our message and from whom and to whom? That's the challenge I think we have, and I'm wondering if, as a follow-up to the visit here, has there been any discussion in that regard?
The visit, since then, we have a number of 501c3 partners, Trust for Public Land, Neighborhood Land Trust. We have a number of them that are now filtering out into communities to do that initial feedback. Recreation and Parks will be part of that. The mayor's office is now coordinating that message.
Great. When you look at the material that was submitted in the visit, and I thank Councilman Labange and yourself and the department, Mr. Moore, our city engineer, everyone did a great job. I mean, the city family just coalesced, and there was a great focus, and our message was very crisp, was very clear. At the end, everyone understood the whole range of priorities we have in the city, and Nancy Sutley, being experienced as she is within the administration, understood where to, I guess, maneuver the dialogue. But as a follow-up, hopefully we can get back some indication from the mayor's office, and I see our mayor's representatives. Good morning, gentlemen. If there's a sense of priorities as to how we're going to approach this, and how can the council be part of that discussion so we can supplement the dialogue. Would anyone from the mayor's office care to comment, or we'll reserve that for later?
They'll reserve it for later. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that's a question I'll be asking in the future,
good.
and I look forward to working with you.
And I think we should prepare for council something before, if we can get a little short report. Mr. Weston.
This is kind of roundabout on the subject. It might be a stretch, but since Mr. Muckery referenced that a lot of us do things with our children, Camp Weston is going to go into its 4th year. We're going to take 100 kids. We had to switch from the Griffith Park, I was reminded, to Hollywood Land because the gas was out.
Correct. We'll fix that gas leak. I just didn't want to jeopardize that program.
I got you. Now, see, Mr. Labange hikes every day in Griffith Park. And Griffith Park is not a level surface. Now, I walk level surface. Now, Hollywood Land is a lot of, I need 2 gators or 2 golf carts. I was going to call and tell you. So I will need that.
Consider it done.
On the 23rd.
Make sure you go to Bronson Caves up there, because it's
I'm in
pretty place. And I'll give you a tour. I'll carry you up, Herb. If you have any trouble with those here, you get on my back, I'll carry you.
I'm in Mr. Muckery's hand.
Good
What
hand.
I decided to do last year was to turn it over to the pros, because it
Right.
is very important to me.
Right.
And we take this year I think we've got 100 kids and connect them with nature, and it makes such a difference. And when I'm doing other things in the parks, kids will come up to me and say, I'm going to go to camp with you this year. And you know, I've seen several of them every year, so we do something different every year.
Right.
So we're excited.
Hollywood Land's a beautiful camp,
It's beautiful.
and Eli Broad rebuilt it after a fire in 1992, unrelated to anything in 1992, but a fire. So it's a very nice. It's a nicer camp than the boys' camp. But I'll be there to help lead a hike, and you could ride the ranger truck there, Mr. Weston, and supervise the butterflies and others.
2 gators.
2 gators. Okay, very good. Last thing, John, on this here, with our parks, I think we could have a goal to try to get children to some of the national parklands. It took me 28 years to go to Yosemite, and all it was is 6 hours and 38 minutes to drive, and then you go through this tunnel. Has anybody been to Yosemite in this room? To go through that tunnel is such a treat, a lifelong experience. This is something we should help promote, as well as our own national forest of the Angeles, the San Bernardino, the Cleveland, and Los Padres, right in our backyard. Additionally, if I could work with you too, I have this idea, and work with the community near the ranger station in Griffith Park. If this was a post, kind of like a freeway sign that says how far it is from someplace, we could list 3 or 4 national parks, and in one direction and the other, so to just whet the appetite of people's imagination, because I think that would be a nice little addition there, just to get people tuned into that and have something about the national great outdoors. Thank you, Mr. Muckery, and also thank you for your work on the national board. You don't need to get enough credit as a park administrator for that. Thank you.
Muckery never gets enough credit.
That's right. That's right.
We've got.
All right, and Lisa, you'll make sure we get a little slot before the end of the school year this year. Okay, let's talk here, if I could. I have some public comment cards, a number of them. Could I call public comment right now, since they're here? I'd like to call to the table Judy West, Mark Siegel. I want to say this, LaShawn? Okay, and the correct way you pronounce your last name? Wiggers. Thank you, and Cheryl Parisi. Thank you. Thank you. Please.
Good morning. My name is Judy West. I just came because I'm a rec assistant at Van Nuys Sherman Oaks and Studio City Park. I'm also with AFSCME. We surveyed the people who actually do the work for the child care, and the budgets for each center we surveyed, and we prepared a white paper that shows child care can be continued. Please take the time to review this and see that we can continue to care for the children of our communities so that the parents can continue to support their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Mark Siegel. I'm with AFSCME Communications at the District Council. And next to me is LaShawn Wiggers, who is a collaborator with me and Martha Flores from Echo Park Child Care to put together this paper. I don't know to what extent you want me to discuss it, given that it's not on the agenda, but this paper comes up with an approach that I think will bring fresh money into by raising fees modestly to the market level. We went to the county child care advocate's office and was able to obtain the market level, what the average child care center charges in the district, the demand, and how we can meet that demand by marketing the child care centers more aggressively. And through that, we can reduce the gap significantly, and I lay that out in the paper, which I could walk through more directly if you desire.
Well, what I would desire is ask the Legislative Analyst Office to review this and give us a report back, and I'm going to formally, do we have an extra copy, Lisa? Okay, we do. I'm going to pass that down, so if you could do that. So Mark, that will be there, and we'll agendize it in September for an update on that.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Mr. Reyes?
Is anybody from the department here? Mr. Muckery just stepped out. There you are. Mr. Muckery, do you have a chance to come on up?
This is public comment.
Public comment. Just as a question, we had spoken of a white paper in the past meetings. I know there was some discussion of putting one together. Is there, with the CLA's analysis of this, will this help with the overall discussion?
Any analysis and redistribution will help. we're open to any opportunity to discuss this and review it.
Okay, great. So if we could perhaps have the CLA, when we do that analysis, is there any information we can get from the department, Mr. Muckery, in terms of helping the CLA look at this from different perspectives?
Yes, I'll be happy to sit down. I have not seen this white paper, but I would love to see what's in it and work together with not only this, but the people that get the service.
Right.
And because they're going to have to start paying more. There's no other way.
If we, as if should this body move forward on policy recommendations, I would love to have that in the council as soon as possible. Break is already coming. The summer is almost ready, but if we can get to the families when the school year starts, that makes a big difference for many working families who need child care.
Yes, there's two efforts that we're ongoing. I would love to look at this and work with the unions and the CLA and finding a way to not only save it but enhance this program.
Okay.
But we are not going to abandon the communities. We have put in programs that will absorb these kids, these school-age kids, into after-school programs.
Great, great. Well, thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you for cooperation. Yes.
Continuing public comment. Whoever would like to speak now.
Hello, my name is LaShawn Wiggers. I'm a child care professional.
At Westchester or?
Palms Child Care.
Palms. I knew it was West. Okay.
And we put, yes, I used to be at Iris C. Massey, moved to Palms. And we came together because we thought today was going to be the day where the department came back with information which you requested for them to come back with. So we thought we would put together a paper that would enhance whatever they came together with. We came together as child care professionals, put our heads together, and to help the department or help you make a better decision on whether you were going to move forward with proposing this to the full committee. We feel if we were given the right marketing, we put two proposals with different fees that would help cut the cost. So we ask that you really take a look at this. There's still a need for child care. Yes, the department said they're going to put forward something, but we actually want to see what they're going to put forward. A lot of parents are still concerned. This is an issue. School is getting ready to begin, and there's a lot of parents who still have nowhere else for their kids to go. This is an affordable, yet we've raised the fees because we understand there is a budget crisis, but there's also a need. So if we can get the numbers and still have the fees at a reasonable price, it would still cut the cost. And we've actually broken it down as to the fees and how we were able to cut the cost and not be as much on the general fund as it was before. So please take a look at this and consider it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheryl Parisi.
Also, we're willing to come to each of your offices if you need more explanation as to how we got the numbers, or if you just even want to speak to us on a personal level as to how we got these numbers. I have time now, so I'm willing to come to each of your offices and explain to you.
Thank you. Cheryl.
Thank you. Yeah, we should know LaShawn is one of the laid-off child care providers. We're here today because we expected, per this committee direction, that the Department of Recreation and Parks would be back with their white paper on, in response to the council motion of ways in which to restore the child care services, in the city Department of Recreation and Parks. We were surprised that that paper has not been completed, that it was not turned into the clerk, and that the item was not agendized for today. And child care workers have been working diligently, putting their best ideas together, so that we've created a pathway. And we appreciate the fact that you've taken the report seriously, asked that the CLA analyze it, and that we'd be able to come back together to your committee as soon as possible. It was our hope that the work could begin today, because obviously kids are going back to school in LAUSD beginning over the next few weeks. And we're, there's now really this unmet need as a result of the closures. So again, we very much support and the request that you've made so that we can come back and fully talk about all of the ideas that our child care workers have put together to really create a reasonable pathway and funding so the child care services can be restored.
Thank you very much. Just as we close this public comment, Mr. Muckery, I don't know when a report is ready for you, and I know you've had, as everyone has had, challenges, but we're going to ask this analysis take place, and if any council staff want to participate, Lisa Schechter from my office will shepherd this. If there's anything magical that could happen before recess, we're going to try to push for that, but at this point, we still need action from the department to give us their white paper. Thank you all for your public comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, the next item, Mr. Clerk, let's go back to item number 2.
Item number 2, motion raised Rosendahl relative to authorization to accept $200,000 from the Cities of Service Leadership Grant and related matters.
Anybody want to report on that? Oh, here's the mayor's office. Good to see the mayor's office. Aaron?
Morning.
Raphael? Hi.
Morning, council members. Aaron Gross, Mayor Villaraigosa's office. Thank you so much for having this item on the agenda today. And I just wanted to thank Councilmember Reyes for introducing this motion on the mayor's behalf. I'm actually just here to say hello and then introduce my colleague and actually my supervisor. Rafael Gonzalez is the Director of Neighborhood and Community Services in the Mayor's Office, and he was recently appointed by the Mayor as the Chief Services Officer as part of this Cities of Service grant. So Mr. Gonzalez was just going to give some information about this grant and about the program and answer any questions that the council members may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning.
Good morning.
Council members, committee. My name is Rafael Gonzalez, and I think you all know the work that the mayor's office has done, at least in my time here in the last 5 years, of promoting community service, of promoting volunteerism, pretty much in line with the work that you all have been doing respectively in your districts, and the great work that's being done by a lot of nonprofits and neighborhood councils and mom and pops groups out there. So the Cities of Service grant is really aligned. It's really sort of in the same vein as the work that we've been doing here. The beauty here is that last year you had a grouping of mayors across the country saying, we want to be like the Corporation for National Service, like our state commissions, and promote and continue strengthening volunteer service in our respective cities. And I really have to give a lot of credit to Mayor Bloomberg for bringing together an array of mayors, including our mayor here in Los Angeles. And from this gathering, there was a relationship that was established with Bloomberg Philanthropies and the Rockefeller Foundation to do exactly that, which is to promote service and volunteerism across our countries. And so from that, a grant was actually made available to 10 cities across the country. And Los Angeles was fortunate to receive one, based on the fact that we wanted to continue promoting service, we wanted to continue organizing our days of service, but really look at a way where volunteerism can really push the needle on issues that are affecting us on a daily basis. We know that our policy and legislative people are in play when it comes to education, the environment, and community development. But volunteers can have a role in that too. And that's exactly my job here, is to find ways where volunteers can actually help reduce the high school dropout rate, where volunteers can help us make the city a much greener, where volunteers can help us alleviate the levels of poverty we have in the city. So in the last few months, we've been getting together with various offices, we've been getting together with various nonprofits to figure this out. Now the thing is that we're not recreating anything new here. The work is already out there. You know, the work around the environment that's taking place with the LA Conservation Corps on the LA River, you know, with the River Keepers Program and the Friends of the LA River and a whole bunch of other organizations there is an example of how we can actually work with that organization and that community and the council office to strengthen the capacity to bring in more volunteers, right? To expand the River Keepers program where we could see it in Canoga Park and in other parts of the river communities. The same thing with community gardens. Establish, you know, working with folks like Glenn Dake, you know, and the LA Neighborhood Land Trust, the LA Community Garden Council, to expand, to maintain the numbers of community gardens that we have across the city. What we're still trying to figure out is how many exactly we have in the city of Los Angeles. So we want to see more activity around that. Working with LA.
How to do that is you start in one region, and just to let you know, and just saturate it to get a number, because it's very difficult to start in San Pedro and start counting. and then you just start in a region, and there's regions by the planning department, which are a good way to look at. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to tell you to.
No, you are totally right, and the reason, and we're actually doing some of that because I mean we've learned from the past. We wish we can go into every community, but we have to start, in small areas. Like in Cypress Park, or going to our community gardens in South LA, in the partnership schools. So in essence, that's the way we see volunteerism, is that we can actually have them work in conjunction with our folks here in City Hall to make that difference in our neighborhood. So we ask that the committee here approve this. We want to work with you. What's great about the agenda here today is that I see a number 3 on here that I would love to work with, because I think we're very much on the same wavelength, and really build the capacity and infrastructure we have here in the city of Los Angeles.
Very good. Mr. Reyes?
First, I want to say thank you for bringing this focus. Every part of the city has a very distinct set of challenges and personalities. Each has their own stage, and how you work it and make it perform is a very unique skill sets, if you will. Especially if you already have momentum going in these places. One question, when you talk about performance and adding volunteers, are you also thinking about a tool to measure with? Is there a way does the foundation require a certain report? How is that going to be illustrated, and have you thought of that yet?
Yeah. As part of our initiative development, we have to identify goals. We have to create metrics, because we want to measure our successes. We want to measure the challenges that we're going to encounter along the way. So we're actually going to have to report back, and we're actually going to have a launch. So there's going to be an actual launching of this initiative we're looking at in late September. So we're going to put ourselves out there, right? And of course, if we're saying that we're going to do this, we have to have the adequate tools. So we've been working, for example, with the LA Riverskeepers program, with the LA Conservation Corps, to develop those metrics, right? The number of people participating in community culture events on the river, the levels of toxin that we'll be measuring in the river, complementing the work that Miguel Luna is doing out there, and the number of volunteers that we're actually bringing in to be part of the various service activities. So we'll be measuring using some of those metrics.
Great.
And, it's the same with the other initiatives.
Let me also add that the mayor is also hoping to show the Los Angeles can put a lot of more volunteerism out there than the city of New York. He's hoping the numbers show that.
Man, that's the challenge.
I think it's not just the numbers, but it's the life of someone is much improved when they do something.
Right.
On that. Mr. Weston? Yeah, the question I wanted to ask you, too, because I thought about this morning. I said, instead of going to Lee Baca, send them to Caltrans. Meaning often many people go for offenses and have to go to the jail, and the jail just turns them right out. We're not going to be able to maintain our public lands in the ways of the past, so it's something to look about that people could possibly do more community service to augment the demand. And some people complain that it's taking away jobs. The jobs aren't there anymore, but the problems are there. And also at the same time, if those jobs come back, I'd rather see, I feel for those who work in the parks, who every day have to pick after those who miss the basket and the trash. And I'd love to have those people get their hands more dirty in nurturing the soils to create the greater trees and gardens. And look at that, there was in the 90s, a pretty good program that the county had, that they did use that effort of trying to give an option for people as opposed to going to jail. Because I'm told, and I don't know, you can correct me, let's say there's the judge over there, Judge Judy right there, and I go before Judge Judy, and I made a mistake. I took a spray can and I painted on Mr. Wesson's business there, and I went there, and the judge would say, do you want to go to jail or you want to do community service? And they say, I want to go to jail. Because they know once they get to jail, it's a minor offense, they're kicked out the door, as opposed to going to community service. Because community service should be a big thing, a reminder. We're not going to win the love of the land unless people get their hands into the land more. I really think there's something to look at about that, and being fair and equal and all other things too with that. So
you know what, Mr. Chairman, I do have one thing that I want to ask. Maybe it's more of an observation. I've had people from, I guess, around the city, primarily in my district. We have these big volunteer efforts, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. it seems as though once you get all of the people there, that they're struggling to find, something actually to do. It's like you have more people than there's a need for. So I think we should spend more time coordinating where and what it is that we're going to do. Like we once, not too long ago, had almost 300 volunteers, and we went from Fairfax to Normandy on Washington Boulevard and cleaned the whole block, the whole stretch.
Sidewalk to sidewalk.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking everything. I have tree guards that are up. They cleaned those, they got the weeds out. But at the end of the day, there was still more work to be done. Volunteers felt like they actually, did something. And I think that sometimes what happens, you kind of struggle. One person paints out 10 minutes worth of graffiti, and then, that's what I think if we did a better job of coming up with the proper jobs and the proper amount of people to have, I think you'd find people more satisfied. They feel as though they actually accomplished something, and then it's easier for us to recruit more people in the future. So that would be one thing that I would recommend, that there needs to be. You really need to coordinate it, because you have all these people that want to work, and then it doesn't happen sometimes.
Right, you're totally right, Herb. We want to give these volunteers a meaningful opportunity. We want them to be excited. We don't want to turn them off of volunteerism, and the beauty about the one day is that it does bring people together. I think our challenge is and should be, how do we integrate that energy into our neighborhoods on a daily basis or on a weekly basis? Because we have to be real. Not everyone can volunteer every week, right? But how do we utilize that asset, right, into our respective organizations or mom and pop groups in our neighborhood? So that's what we're trying to do. And, we're also talking to Council President Garcetti's office about a centralized website, because I think that's something that the city of Los Angeles needs. And so we're working in conjunction with the Volunteer Center, and we'll be meeting with Google this week to figure out what we can do about that, because I think that will also have something to do with better organizing ourselves and giving that volunteer that opportunity to go out there and do what they do best.
Great. Mr. Reyes has a question.
Just a minor detail, but I think it has to do with the experience of the volunteer. When we've done our community cleanups, a big factor and role player is Public Works. And they come in with materials, they come in with the trucks, they come in with the plastic bags, with the gloves, to make sure no one gets cut or infected or hurt. Does this budget allow for that, or is it something we have to work with existing budget with Public Works?
We'd be working with an existing. This grant, will not impact, the amount of materials and people power that the Board of Public Works or the staff at Public Works puts out there. We do have to be a lot smarter, when it comes, to those type of activities, and, also not rely completely on the fact that, on one day we're going to have all these cleanups. I think there's different, strategies that we can employ, doing the cleanups, working in our senior centers, working in our parks, doing other creative activities at schools.
So it's a whole range of possibilities.
It's the whole range, exactly.
I want to say, too, Catholic schools are big on this, and other schools maybe they require service before graduation.
Loyola High School.
Birmingham Day does big time. What is the Cathedral does, too? I want to... Yeah, sorry, Ed. What in the mayor's schools? Let's just, make that a requirement. Say that to graduate, you got to do 40 hours. That's just 1 week, and you could do that.
It is a requirement in LAUSD, but what I found is that there's no exact hour or, criteria for how much time that student or that parent, needs to invest in. I think
we should find out about that and just try to do it and work by neighborhood or by region and connect to parks. Mr. Reyes, our champion of the river, there's an opportunity always there. There's never enough. So we'll look at that, but I'm glad your energy is here. So we're going to accept this grant, and we'll work on it. Mr. Weston?
Yeah, it made me think of something else. I'm sorry. But, you know, when you get my age, when you have a thought, you need to roll it out. An example of a project that I thought was unbelievable, and maybe Mr. Reyes or Labange can help me. I can't remember the name of this
Hands Across
organization.
America.
I don't know if that's it, but they adopt a school, and they go out to this school on one day and literally transform it. One school was selected in my district, Mr. Reyes. It was Hillside Elementary. And I came out, and they had a ton of volunteers, but they had such prep work where they painted the school with decorative things or what have you. And I mean, it was hundreds of volunteers. And at the end of the day, you had, the kids were off, you know, so when they came back, they had a brand new school. But I mean, you had people there that made sure everybody got fed or got coffee or this, that, and the other. You had individuals that painted. So they just transformed this entire school. So at the end of the day, you could see the transformation, and everybody worked. And there's no reason why we couldn't do that. I mean, it's that we couldn't put together a group. What you would need is some volunteer artists. They basically come in and they, you know, give you a blueprint of what you're supposed to do, and then you go there. The paint is there to color and what have you. It is an I went back at the end of the day and was amazed at what I saw. But that, at the end of the day, you can say, look what I did.
That's beautiful. That's
You know, I think, Mr. Weston, I think what each of us have to do, each council person should have a field deputy who's a volunteer coordinator to try to be able to do that, because it pushes it. And then when there's log jams, I'm with the council office, I'm with the mayor's office, it breaks the log jams. And also, there's a lot of silent volunteers that we don't even think of who are at cancer centers throughout the community, AIDS, healthcare centers, Project Angel Food, Candy Stripers. All of these people make a difference. So I think it's real important to continue to talk that. We're going to take these next two items up right now. We'll approve this number 2. I do want to prepare this, get this into council before the end of next week, so that you could express this in maybe a brief way and have some challenges. And then also, members, I think our committee should add that we should challenge the rest of the council to identify a staff member who would coordinate with the mayor's office. You know, because I think it's really important we put pressure on ourselves. Let's go to the next items, Mr. Clerk. You can
LA Works.
Welcome back.
LA Works. LA Works was
LA
the name of that
LA Works.
organization. LA
With
Works.
Donna Boyarsky.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Item
Right.
number 3, motion Labange Rosendahl relative to the feasibility of implementing a volunteer division and related matters.
Okay. So our librarian is out on librarian business at this time, but we want to look for ways to do that. And I see the CAO's representative is here. CAO's representative handles cultural affairs, or libraries. Want to join us at the table? Either one. Or both.
Don't run up here now.
Or Veronica. You think of the volunteers. What do you think? Who would you say, who has the most volunteers of what city department? I would say Recreation and Parks, because of coaches and everything like that. So we should know that, you know, and maybe ask the mayor to have a volunteer day just to say that they, something like that. But anyway, give us a little idea. We're going to have the librarian in here at another meeting to give an update on these opportunities, but Friends of Libraries, all that, etc.
Well, sir, Jackie Vernon Wagner with the Office of the CAO. I wanted to introduce and pass on the torch to Elaine Sanchez. She's the new library analyst, and she'll be representing the library issues here.
Jackie, you're so kind to
on behalf
pass
of
the
CAO.
torch. That's good. Thank you. You know what's on the top of the library? A torch. It's the light. It's the light of learning.
Thank
See, you connected so well, Jackie. That's good. Okay.
I would actually have to get back to you on any questions that you would have, because as she said, of passing the torch, I'm a very new library analyst, so I don't have
You could
a lot
find
of
out,
specific-
too, how many libraries are in. I know in our fire stations, we don't have volunteers. We have what they call explorers who work on a volunteer basis, or college students. So there's no volunteer firefighters. I know there's a lot of cadets who are old explorers who really do a great job for the police department. I don't know how many volunteers are in the library. I know at some certain functions, there's library volunteers for like the photo section, some of the unique sections that are there. But we should look at this and tally it and have it. I just know there's enough of work to keep everyone engaged in a volunteer role to help. And I know we're in a troubled time and we're reducing staff, but at the same time, sometimes people can volunteer and get an opportunity. I would even like to put it on the table that if you, when times are good, when you, before you get a city job, maybe you have to volunteer 40 or 80 hours just to show that you're committed, because so many city employees naturally give extra. It just would be a good jump in the beginning. So we're going to hold this for the librarian. It will probably be in September, but we're going to discuss volunteers, and we'll check with the clerk which report we get to council before to try to make it a mission for this next year. And our cycle is different now because of before, now there's so many meetings every month. It used to be before year-round school, things slowed down in June, and then they picked up in September. Now it goes year-round. But also, somehow I feel in September, it's another rebirth that we could look at some of the objectives. With many schools back to traditional calendars, we could use this as an emphasis to push and do good. Children in schools, I know there's a man who's 95 who can't see anymore, who children volunteer to come read to the man. So there's many volunteer roles that are out there. We've got to find them. Thank the library department. And we'll be in touch. Anything else, colleagues? No other cards are at 9:39 on this date, the 10th of August. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Item 4.
Mr. I apologize. We're not adjourned. The clerk did not volunteer to inform me that. So I'm going to ask the clerk to tell me what's item 4.
Item number 4 is Library Department report relative to the expansion of its volunteer program and related matters.
Well, that's what we just covered. We're going to continue that, and then continue both of those matters, 3 and 4. I apologize. I didn't volunteer to make myself as clear. All right, we're clear now. Thank you, everybody.
All righty.
We're good.